Okay. I'm Jakesia, and this is Miss Bridgewater, and I'm interviewing her for the second time. Okay, let's start. Can you tell me what church you went to?
Bethel AME, 4th and Park Street.
Okay. When you were growing up, what type of music couldn't you listen to? Like, is there any music that your parents would not let you listen to?
We didn't have that kind of music.
Okay.
Because I listened to blues, jazz, church music,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, all of it.
Okay. Is there any music that you didn't let your children listen to?
No. No. See, that kind of music that has words in it that I wouldn't want them to be hearing came along later
Mm-hmm.
when they were older.
Okay.
And they knew whether or not they wanted to listen. And they knew what they shouldn't bring home, you know.
Yeah.
Okay.
You were in the choir at your church, right?
Yes.
So how long were you involved in the choir?
I joined when I was 18, and my father was in it too, in the choir too, and I've been there ever since.
You still in it today?
Uh-huh.
Okay. What instruments did your father play?
My father played saxophone, drums, and xylophone.
Did seeing him play those instruments influence you to do the same?
Yeah, he made us a part, made me well, my brother too, to a certain extent, a part of what he was doing in music.
Do you know of any famous artists that came out of Champaign, or any people that, when you were growing up, were pretty famous around Champaign?
Yeah, we've had a lot. Height, let's see, Les Height, he became quite famous, and Jack McDuff. I know there are others. My son, for one. But there were quite a few. This has been a good place for jazz music.
Do you remember your music class when you were younger?
Yes, we had a wonderful music teacher in grade school. Her name was Miss Rose, and I especially liked her because she let me sing either soprano or alto, and she came, well, I don't know whether it was once a week or anyhow, we always looked forward to her coming, but she was a wonderful teacher. And this was a long time ago, and we had a program at Champaign, well, what is now Edison, and I remember I had a little colored doll, and I sang lullaby, and I was in the program, and that was kind of unusual at that time.
So when you were younger, you wrote a paper and got into a state competition. Do you remember that?
Oh, it was a music test.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, what the teachers did at that time was to play. Well, we learned the name and the source of different classical music, and she would play just a little part of it, and then if we recognized it, we were to say what it was and who the composers were and what suite it was from. And I was a part of that contest, at least, and I was sent from our school to the citywide contest. And I always felt, and so did my parents, that I was sort of cheated out of the chance to go on to the state, because the only thing they could find wrong with my paper was I had an extra hump on an M, and that wasn't a misspelled word, that's just extra hump on an M, that's all.
Mm-hmm.
So,
do you think that was a racial
Yes.
Racial
Yeah,
discrimination?
at that time it was.
Hmm. Okay, so how would you describe your parents when you were growing up? Like, how were they towards you?
I feel like I had wonderful parents. Uh, they made a lot of sacrifices for us, for my brother and I, and they were well respected in Champaign, which meant that we didn't want to do anything to cause any disrespect to them. So they were good.
Did they influence you in like?
Yeah. For instance, when we when I was in high school, my dad made sure that, of course, they were determined for me to go to university because my dad worked there, and I guess he wanted to see his daughter graduate from there too.
Mm-hmm.
But when we brought our papers home to pick out our classes, they always insisted that I take college preparatory courses. That was foreign language and algebra.
Mm-hmm.
And the counselors would tell us, some of us, and then me as one, that we shouldn't take some of the harder subjects because didn't think we could pass them. But we sort of fooled them and passed them and went on to college anyhow.
Were there
I wasn't a great student. I was average student.
Mm-hmm.
But I got there.
Were there any extracurricular activities that you were involved in?
I always wanted to be in the Glee Club, but we weren't accepted in there at that time. Of course, that was a long, long time ago. That wouldn't be so today.
Yeah.
But there weren't too many.
You said your father worked at the university.
Mm-hmm.
What did he do there?
He was, well, when he started out, he was a messenger boy, carrying mail from one, letters and messages from one building to another. Of course, there weren't as many buildings as there are now. And it finally worked up to where it became a part of the mail service. He was there 30 years, and in that time, it worked up to where it was a mail service, where between. Of course, now I think it's almost over with now with emails and so on. I guess that's about the end of that service.
Yeah. Now your father played a few instruments, so did he ever perform anywhere?
Yeah, they had a orchestra known as the Foot Warmers, and they had a lot of students from the university who played. He used students, and they had rehearsals. I remember rehearsals they had on Friday nights, and we always fed them chili. And of course, they were apt to come to rehearsal because they knew they were going to get fed. And then there were some that came through in carnivals and so on that stopped off here in Champaign to play, and they played with him too in his band.
So did you ever go to see him perform?
Yeah, we had dances then, and our music was live music. It was orchestra. And my parents took us just about every place they went, even to lodge meetings, and put us in the, they used to let us stay in the ante rooms until they found out we were learning some of the signs and so on of the lodge, so they changed that. But we had dances, and I was able to go.
What did you think, or what was going through your mind when you saw your father performing?
Oh, I was always proud of him. In fact, I loved to dance with my dad. My dad taught me foxtrot, which was the dance that we did, and I always loved to waltz with him. That song, I Wish I Could Dance with My Father Again, I think somebody wrote it. is one of those that I could connect with, because I did enjoy dancing with my dad.
What do you think is different about the music that you listened to when you were a child as compared to the music that you hear today?
It was music that you could understand. I was listening to some of it today, some jazz music. I don't know, it's a little farther out. Let's say jazz has gone to and it's kind of hard to follow some of it, but I still enjoy it.
Okay. Do you remember anything about the Harlem Renaissance?
No.
You don't?
Not too much, no.
Okay. So, back to your father. Do you remember anything or any places that your father performed in? Do you remember any other places?
Oh, yeah. He played on campus at fraternities and sororities. When they had spring dances, they had live music. And that was quite a bit of, and then there were dance halls here in town and sometimes at taverns. In fact, my son came in today and I was listening to Dexter Gordon on TV, and they were playing a song that we played when I was playing with when my dad had a group with myself and other teenage kids that were friends of ours. We played together, and we played at a tavern, and they were playing a song that we played, and I remembered that I sang it, and I went up to end it on a real high note, and when I found out what that note was, I never did try it again. I made it that time, but I didn't try it anymore.
So, were your children, did you influence them to get involved in music, or did they just want to do it on their own?
Well, they wanted to do it on their own, but I gave them every opportunity because we had a record player and had provided music for them.
What instruments does your son play?
The oldest one plays trumpet, and the middle son plays saxophone, like my father did. Okay. And their father played trumpet.
Any other questions?
Just want to talk to him about wanting to be in the Glee Club.
The Glee Club. Okay. What made you want to be in the Glee Club?
She couldn't be. Maybe you want to talk more about that.
Oh, why couldn't you be in the Glee Club? Why do you think they wouldn't let you in?
You know, I guess we didn't try, for one thing, because the idea it was already planted in our minds that we wouldn't be accepted, and maybe that was wrong. At the time, though, that was the way we were thinking. So I didn't make any effort to be in the Glee Club. I would like to have been. But then in later years, there were others who made it. But I don't know, I guess there's a certain psychology about knowing that you can't, or you're not accepted, or nobody's in there, and they haven't been in there, so you don't even try. And it was racial, of course, on our part.
So why did you want to be in the Glee Club?
Because I like to sing.
The singing? Okay. When did you first start singing? How old were you when you first started?
Well, I was in grade school. Probably 3rd, 4th grade.
Do you remember have you ever sang in public, publicly in front of a crowd?
Only with the group, that orchestra, or at church, of course.
Or church.
I sang solos at church. But I listened to myself not too long ago, and I don't sing solos anymore.
Do you remember the first time that you performed?
Yes. I sang a solo at church one time, and there were students there from the university. And one of them was, my phrasing wasn't very good, or at least that's what he told me. He came up later and talked to me about how to phrase it, with more expression.
Mm-hmm.
And I always appreciated that. And that was a good experience.
Do you think that you wanted to sing because of the musical background in your?
Yeah, I used to think that I'd like to be a big-time singer. That's as far as that went.
Yeah.
I was satisfied to be here. My son's first wife, Dee Dee, is a singer, and I sort of relived some of the stuff through her. Of course, they're not together anymore, but I've enjoyed watching her career.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I think I got through all my questions.
Are your sons singers?
Huh?
Are your sons singers?
No, they don't sing. They would tell you that they can't.
You only have sons? You don't have any daughters?
I have a daughter.
You have a daughter? Does she sing?
No.
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 Does she play
She
any?
played flute in high school. She was in some contests and so on, but she gave it up. She's a social worker now.
Okay.
Have you ever sung and played?
Have
The
you ever
piano?
sung and played?
Yeah, like sing and play the piano.
Are you getting around to something?
Trying to get her to sing and play.
Only church music, yeah.
That's cool.
Okay, well, I think I'm finished.
Yeah.
All right. Thank
Good
you.
job.